So thanks again, everybody, for joining us for this month's Fast Track to Automating Your Human Resources webinar from Cities Digital, or CDI. Again, my name is Laura Froyum, and I'm the Sales Director here with the team. So for your records, this webinar will be recorded and will be available for download on our Cities Digital YouTube site, as well as on our client portal with any documents that we've got available as well. And throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box and submit them, and I will go through questions at the end. So we'll get started. So today's agenda, we are going to start with kind of covering the licensing terms that I'm going to be using throughout the presentation, so you have an idea of what Laserfiche Forms is versus Laserfiche Forms Portal and that kind of thing. And then we're also going to just walk through the entire HR life cycle. We're going to show how you can use Laserfiche Forms and workflow for recruiting, as well as all the way through to offboarding. We're going to talk a little bit about using database connections and configuring easy to use dashboards for viewing and compiling your information. So to get started, again, starting with the licensing terms, we are going to be focusing a lot today on Laserfiche Forms. So Laserfiche Forms allows you to convert any paper form into an online digital document for completion. You can use forms both internally, and you can set it up with the Laserfiche Forms portal to be used externally. So meaning any clients or prospective clients or end users who don't have a Laserfiche username and password to your Laserfiche system, you can set them up with usage through the Laserfiche Forms portal. This will allow them the ability to submit forms to your team anonymously. Laserfiche does also offer a few other licensing types if you do want them to be able to not only submit a form, but also interact with a form as part of a process. And that's something we'll be covering in future webinars as well. And then we're going to take a look at an ODBC connection, which is an outside database connection. You can leverage workflow and forms to push and pull data between other applications like SQL or maybe your HRIS or a CRM. Tons of different applications allow for ODBC connections, so we'll take a quick look at that today. And then, of course, the Laserfiche workflow. Laserfiche workflow behind the scenes is doing everything, automating and routing all of the documents internally and generating the folder structures, applying metadata. So workflow is going to be doing a lot of work for us behind the scenes today. Wanted to dive into Laserfiche Forms a little bit. So I am assuming a lot of the people on here have, now seen and been exposed to Laserfiche Forms a little bit. So if your Laserfiche system has workflow, you have access to Laserfiche Forms Essentials. You need to be on version 10.2 or higher, but you would have access to the included version of Forms. So Laserfiche also offers an add-on to your system called Forms Professional. Forms Professional allows you some additional functionality and usage with the component. So it is an add-on. And if you're not sure if you've got either one of these, you can definitely reach out to our team and we'll help you get that sorted out. But a lot of what we're doing today does require Forms Professional, or there's a more simplified version that we could use with Forms Essentials. So to get started, the HR lifecycle starts with recruiting. So recruiting is just analyzing the requirements of a job, attracting employees, screening, hiring, and integrating that new employee to the organization. So within Laserfiche, you can use the system for your job requisition requests, send it through approvals. You can have your applicants fill out a form with that Forms portal instead of using maybe those other job sites to compare your applicants. That's especially great if you post your job on multiple sites. You can defer them to fill out a resume and submit all of their information through our or your forms portal so that you can compare them all in one location regardless of which site they applied through. And then you can even configure easy dashboard tracking so you can screen and see where you're at with any of your applicants. So let's take a look. Also, throughout this process today, I'm going to be jumping in and out of my demo machine to take a look. So starting again with the job requisition, we have, and I have set up just some basic information in my database here. And so I'm going to start, we're going to look for a new consulting team member, or one of our consulting team members is going to request a new position. So I'm just going to say Laura is requesting a new consulting position within our organization. I'd like them to start right away. I'd like to post it to all of these sites. So what you can do and what we can do with Laserfiche is, depending on the selections and the sites that you post your job listing to, once we submit this, it can actually push the information to those sites and upload the form for us. So I just wanted to show an example of what that would look like. So here I just pulled up the Laserfiche careers website, and essentially what would get pushed to Indeed or ZipRecruiter is just some information saying, here's the base job description. If you want to apply, click here. And then that will bring them to your forms portal so that they can submit their application, which I'll show you. So I'm actually going to request a new sales job. Just going to do a little refresh because I had been playing with this and then it was sitting for a moment. Start date. All right. So we're going to look for a new systems architect. And then we can see here the position description automatically gets pulled in from a database. So we can read over it and make sure it looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this, and this form is going to go to our HR department for approval. So it doesn't automatically get pushed to those sites. It has to go through an approval process first. So as the HR team member, I could maybe get an email notification saying, hey, you have a new job requisition for approval. Click here and approve it. Or I can log into my Laserfiche Forms inbox and get notification of that form that I need to submit. So this here that we're looking at is the Laserfiche Forms inbox. I'm going to go ahead and just click on my task. So here is my job requisition request. All right, I think this looks good. We're going to go ahead and push it out. So you can incorporate signatures as approvals if you'd like. You can draw or type your signature. And then I'm going to go ahead and approve it. So from here, workflow is going to pick it up. It's going to push our job posting out to the sites that we wanted it listed on. And then from there, we can start receiving job applications. So again, everything that you see in any of these forms is completely customizable. So the colors, the information in the drop down, the information that you're collecting, it's all completely customizable to you and your team and your needs. And so this is just the job application that we have set up. So somebody comes on, they can see all of the different positions we have listed. We're going to go ahead and select refresh because I submitted a new job requisition for a systems architect. So hopefully you all saw that. I had submitted the drop down and then I just hit refresh, and now we've got our system architect job listing here for us. So I'm going to fill this out. For Bridget Lemoyne. select over to the application information, bachelor's degree. I am. So your applicant is filling out this submission and they have the ability to upload their resume and a cover letter here. Cover letter. So you can require them to attach a resume or not. Same with any of these fields, you can make them required so that you're, again, collecting the minimal amount of information that you need in order to consider an applicant. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. So at this point, this splash page is also customizable. So if you wanted them to be able to download a copy of their submission, they could certainly do that. You could include some custom text saying that your application's been received, you'll receive a response within 24 hours, something like that. So now, if I jump into my Laserfiche repository, I'm going to look at our job requisitions folder. And in process, I can see here, oh, I gotta refresh. I can see here that from my submission, it created the folder structure for me in Laserfiche and applied metadata. And as I navigate through the folder structure here, I'll be able to see all of the different applicants that have applied for my position. And then if I open up the applicants folder, I can see their cover letter, the form submission, and their resume. So I'm going to open up the form submission. So here's the form that they filled out online. If you have a specific application form, we could certainly format the information that they fill out online to push into the form document that you have and that your team is used to. But again, we can see here all of the metadata information was pulled through from the form submission and populated for us automatically. So if I were to submit an additional applicant, we could go ahead and see multiple client or applicant folders within here. I'm going to switch over to sales. In our account manager section, we've got a couple of account managers listed here and our sales director role that we're hiring for. So we are now to the point where we've received a bunch of applicants and now we want to review them. So this is something really neat that we're actually using internally here at Cities Digital, but we have a job applicant review form. So again, this is a Laserfiche form. This is completely customizable. And so what we're going to do is we have the ability to refresh all of our pages. I just refresh them all right now. But then from there, I can take a look at my applicants. So as a hiring manager or maybe a department supervisor, you could have access to this form that you would then go and be able to take a look at any of the applicants that have applied for the position. From here, you can also view their application. And that will pull up the information directly from Laserfiche right here in the screen. So you don't have to navigate to the folder structure. You can just log in right here and then it will pull up that document for reference. So you don't have to leave the screen. Makes it really easy. So here we can take a look at the document once it loads. And there's our form submission and we can review all the information. So let's say that's really great, but I want to be able to compare all of my applicants. So you can just select the department again, and then up here we have a tab for all applicants, and we can see all of our applicants who have applied for the position are available for us to review here. And again, any of the information that you see is completely customizable. So we've got the applicant name, their education, the school that they went to, their salary requirements, and then what the status is and where they are at in our onboarding process. So here we've just got a drop-down list. So pending means they've just submitted it. If we change it to reviewed, that means we have reviewed their application. Once we've interviewed them, we can switch it to interviewed. if we're to the point where we like this applicant and we want to send and generate a job offer, we would select create a job offer, and that's going to kick off a workflow that generates some document population for us. Then we can hire them or reject them from there. So just pop back over here. And we are actually going to hire our consulting team member that just submitted their resume. So here's Bridget. We have interviewed her. I'm going to go ahead and just hit submit. So now when I log back into this dashboard, it's going to show her status has been updated to interviewed, consulting, interviewed. We want to create an offer. She was a great candidate. She gave a great interview. Let's go with that. So switch her status to create an offer and then click submit. So now if I jump back over to my Laserfiche repository, so right now, Bridget's still in our job requisitions in process for consulting. But if I do a refresh and I go back into Bridget's folder, we've got a new document that was just created, an offer letter. So this offer letter, ooh, it did open, is customizable. So it's a fillable Word document, or we could do a fillable PDF document in which you could then just go in and make updates. So we're going to offer her 50,000% save. I'm going to overwrite the existing document since we made updates to it. And then from here, once we've got the offer letter all formatted the way we want, maybe you want to send this to somebody else for approval. You can certainly build out another approval process for that. Otherwise, we can just simply send it out through DocuSign. So I'm going to go ahead and select the DocuSign toolbar button. And this is going to allow us to push the offer letter to Bridget to review. And should she accept, she'll just go ahead and sign the document, and then it will come back into our repository automatically. So for example, if you were to build out a review process as part of this application process, once the or as part of the job offer process, once the job offer has been approved by your team internally, it could automatically go out to Bridget. So you wouldn't necessarily have to click the toolbar button, but you could. So I'm going to just send it to myself. I'm going to add a signature and then just send it off. So from there, Bridget will get a notification letting her know that she is receiving a job offer, and she can go ahead and review it. And then once she signs off on it, it will come back into her folder here in Laserfiche automatically, and that could kick off a notification letting the HR team know that Bridget has accepted the offer. And then that, in turn, could kick off the next step in our process, which is onboarding. So if you work in HR, you know that onboarding doesn't just start with simple documentation that they fill out on their first day. Onboarding is part of an entire plan. So getting your new hire their new hire paperwork, but also departmental coordination. So making sure that everybody on the team is getting them their logins, setting up their computer, developing the training plans, getting all of their benefits, all of that in order. So for onboarding, what we can take a look at is we're going to pop back into our repository. Whoops. Sorry, I've got lots of screens going on here. So I'm actually going to go back to my job applicant review area, select Bridget, and I'm going to switch her status to hired. Now, again, if you had the job offer go out via DocuSign and comes back signed, you could have this process again happen automatically. But since this is just a demo, I'm going to go ahead and just show you how you can manually do it as well. So I'm just going to flip it to hired and then hit submit. So now if we go back into our repository, I'm going to hit F5 a few times. We're going to see. Bridget's folder is no longer here in consulting. Oh, it is. We'll give it a minute. But it should move her into consulting as well. So here, now it's refreshed, it's run through its workflow. Bridget's folder was automatically moved into our active employee files area into the appropriate department. So if I take a look at her folder structure and expand it, we've got her pre-hire folders, or hire files, which was her cover letter, her application, her job offer, and her resume. And then I can see here in my new hire files that I've got some documentation as well. So any new hire files that you have, you can build into this process. And then from here, Bridget would be able to easily, or you would be able as an HR manager, be able to print these documents out and give them to her, or allow her the capabilities to fill them out online or on a computer. What we do here at Cities Digital, actually, I'm going to pull that up in a separate area. But we have part of our forms incorporated into a Laserfiche forms process. So let me show you one instance of that. So instead of having a new applicant fill out all of these fillable documents, we have them just go through a few different forms and then submit their acknowledgements through to us. So just a minute while that loads here. Had to refresh everything, so it's just taking an extra minute here. So earlier I hired William Zapka internally at the city's digital office. And so as an HR manager, I would sit down with them and go through the handbook, and then they could go through and fill out these acknowledgements. So they have the ability to download a copy of the handbook and take a look at it. Otherwise, just simply acknowledge that they've received it. They can acknowledge the building access and that they've received a key card and all of that great stuff. The equipment responsibility, if they have been granted equipment or specific equipment, they would acknowledge that here. And then the emergency contact information that they would complete. And then they can go ahead and submit it. So that was 4 different forms. And those forms then will get pushed into the Laserfiche repository for that employee. And they will be broken apart and renamed accordingly. So here we can see just a copy of it all together as one. And again, if you had specific forms you wanted to push any of this information into as they exist right now, we could certainly configure that instead of it having it come through as a Laserfiche form in that format. All right, and then the next thing I wanted to show as part of our onboarding process for William Zapka, he got an email notification in advance that went out to his personal email, just kind of welcoming him aboard. giving him some information on who the department heads are and who he needs to contact for what. And this, again, is all customizable, but this is an email that automatically went out to him. Additionally, we, behind the scenes, when we hire a new employee, have a series of notifications that go out. So my demo machine doesn't have it, so unfortunately I couldn't show it, but it notifies multiple people within our organization that a new employee is going to start, and here's their start date. So this is just one of the email notifications that goes out. So this goes out to our project coordinator who schedules everything. So it's just a notification saying, please schedule the quarterly assessment meetings between William Zapka and their manager. And so then those will get put onto the calendar so that going forward, we've got our review schedule set up for our employees' first year. In addition to that, I have another form that I'm going to show you. Is a part of onboarding is also scheduling a training plan. So here, again, I'm going to show you another Laserfiche form. And this is what we use to decipher who's going to get trained on what. So based on the department an applicant has applied for and the position they have applied for, we have a training plan get configured automatically. So we have ours broken out into phases. So phase 1, phase 2, here's the different training sessions that each employee is expected to go through. Who the trainer is, what the training type is, whether it's a video or a course with somebody one-on-one. So all of this information from this form is collected and kept in a database. And so we can make easy updates to the database or to this form should we want to change something. So once this form is completed by the departmental manager, they can go ahead and look it over, make sure that all of the courses are on there that should be on there, and then they submit it. And then from there, all of the training sessions will get scheduled out. So it will go to our project coordinator, and then they go ahead and they build out all the training sessions with whoever is available and in a way like that. In addition, when our employees are going through those training plans and they're going through those courses through the phases, they have their own form, which I don't have, unfortunately, to show you today, where they can say, okay, I've gone through this training, and then that will update our database. And then every week, the department supervisor gets an email saying which courses the employee still needs to complete. So let me see if I can get that example. I'm just going to show you an example of an email that goes out. So this is an email that goes out to the department supervisor, letting them know these are the following courses that the employee has either not completed or did not indicate were completed through the new employee training plan form. So we can see here that this employee still has all of these components and courses that they need to run through. And then from there, we can take a look at what that form looks like. So this is the form that the new employee would have access to, where they could select and fill out which sessions they have gone ahead and completed. So again, all of that is managed through Laserfiche Forms, Forms Portal, and just a Laserfiche full user for any employees. So then if we jump back in, and part of that too, you can build out the benefits enrollment. So you could, just like the training plan, you could build a benefits enrollment section. So you could have forms completed for which services they want to apply for, have attachments that they could grab from within the within a Laserfiche dashboard, all of that. So if I don't have the process built out, that doesn't mean it's not available, but you can definitely configure it within the system. So Laserfiche becomes your HRIS. So then going to jump in to my presentation. All right. So next in our life cycle is just developing and retaining. So going through and making sure that your employees have a standardized review process, being able to submit employee warnings or positive employee feedback. So you also have the ability to do and manage all of that within Laserfiche. So if I jump back onto my demo machine, we're going to jump back to our Bridget example, and I'm going to start a review for Bridget. So within your organization, you already have a hired staff. We can help you import all of the details for those staff into your Laserfiche system so that this process isn't manual for you. But once an employee is hired, you can also go ahead and review them. So here, I'm going to select Bridget. It looks like no issues were logged, so if Bridget had received a warning, let's actually start there. So I'm going to go to my HR management dashboard and I'm going to issue a warning for Bridget first. So if I go back to the review form, there's no issues notated right here. But if we submit a review or a warning, it will show up on our review form, so we could bring it up again if we needed to. Verbal warning, job performance. She has not been coming in on time. And we could upload any supplemental documentation if needed and then submit it. That could go through an approval process if needed. So if the warning form is submitted and then maybe HR needs to approve it before it goes and becomes a final lands in the employee's record, you could definitely configure that. But otherwise, if I go back to my review form now for Bridget, I'm just going to refresh this. I'm going to select Bridget, Department Consulting. We can see here her infraction has been populated as part of the review submission. So internally here at Cities Digital, we also use what we call a Yelp form. So if you want to give a positive review on an employee, any of our staff members can go ahead and submit a positive review on an employee, and then that will also show up as part of the review process. So you can have it be a warning or something positive that other employees can contribute to. And then that will show up on the review form for that employee come their review time. So then we've got our requirements and goals, and this ties into exactly what Bridget's job description is, which we'll take a look at managing and maintaining job descriptions a little bit later on in the webinar. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to give her a grade on all of the pieces of her job. So we're going to look at her requirements and give her a rating. We can include notes. She's pretty good, minus she doesn't come in on time all the time. Give her some 1s and 2s as well, just so we can kind of take a look at it. Then we have the ability to, and again, I just want to reiterate, everything you see here is customizable. So if you don't like the requirements and goals that we have, or you don't like the basic review questions that we have configured, you can set it up however you want, and our team can help you get there. So we are going to rate her on just these generalized job questions. 1, 1. Needs work. So again, some fields are required, others are not. These are all required fields here in our demo. We also have a feedback and growth section. So this gives the employee the opportunity to give whatever feedback they want to give. So we can type in whatever information. If they have something more they want to add, we could simply add an additional feedback area. And then we can build out a growth plan. So let's say Bridget wants to go through some training. She wants to learn how to use Salesforce. So her goal is to go through some Salesforce training and maybe something else. Dynamics. So we add those goals onto her feedback and growth plan, and then those will be available to us next time we do her review. They will automatically populate, so we can ask her, hey, we set these goals last review. Where are you at on them? Have you completed them? Additionally, the form goes ahead and it averages the points that we have given her, which we would then use to make a recommendation on pay increase potentially. So if her grade point average is high, maybe she gets a higher raise, or low, no raise, whatever it may be. So from here, we can just go ahead and submit it. And then this is going to kick off an approval process. So this is going to go to whoever may need to approve the compensation adjustment for Bridget. So if I go into my forms inbox, you can see here, I've got an approval that I need to take a look at. This gives me the access to see all of Bridget's review as read-only, or I can make edits to it. So I can see, she was written up on the 27th for not coming in on time. I can see that she's set some goals for herself, which I like to see. Can take a look at the overall summary and the recommended job change or percent change. I'm going to change that to 3%. She's a little bit below average today. And then just go ahead and approve it. And then that will store a copy of the review form within Bridget's folder structure in Laserfiche so that we have it to reference. And then let's take a look. Go ahead and refresh this. Oh, we can see that the disciplinary file folder has been created automatically. So there's her job performance submission. And then the review one is working through. So that will eventually populate as well and become a folder and get stored in Laserfiche. All right, so then as we are reviewing, we can, again, incorporate infractions or warnings or positive reviews, as well as incorporate the, review process with the job descriptions. And then we can also do dashboard tracking. So we can see where everybody is at as far as our employee base. Whoops. Oh, that's why I didn't go back into her folder. I've got another approval task here in my box. Then it will go into her folder. So I'm just going to go ahead and approve it. So this would give me the ability to notify Bridget and let her know what her pay increase was. And then it could also kick off a notification to our accounting team or our payroll team to let them know that this person's pay has been adjusted. So again, tasks flowing from one person to the next, either within forms or through workflow. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my appropriate dashboard to load so that I can show you that you have an easy way to view all of the employees in your organization and see where they are at as far as the PTO that's available, or when their PTO is going to renew, when their next review is set. So Bridget is in here and we reviewed her today, and it actually set her next review automatically to 3/12 of 2020. So it can automatically update this for you. So again, you can get a quick screenshot of where all of your employees are, what department they're in, their position, all of that, one-stop shop, taking a look. And then you can take a look at any of the open positions you have available that are still listed. And then you can see any of the other HR management tools that you may need to use. So again, employee review, the termination, job warning, all of that. So then the next step in our life cycle is offboarding. So we've gone through, we've reviewed our employee, we've hired her. Now we're going to offboard her. So whether she is terminated or puts in her notice, we can kick off the offboarding process. And again, offboarding is a really time and labor intensive process, because not only are you just making sure you collect their keys, but you have to coordinate with your departments to make sure that they're all the notifications are going out, they're getting deactivated, their emails being forwarded, their phone system is being forwarded, all of that. And then you have to coordinate the COBRA and all of the benefits information. So let's go ahead and terminate Bridget here. So we're going to start that process with an employee termination form. So this is something that either the department supervisors could initiate, or maybe just HR, or a combination of both. So we're going to terminate Bridget. I did that pretty quick, but essentially it's just giving me a drop down of all of my employees, automatically populates to the department for us. I'm just going to go ahead and submit that. And then if I jump into my forms inbox, or I could get an email notification saying, hey, somebody's getting terminated, take action. I could click the link in my email and it will bring me up to this form that I can review. So I'm going to go ahead and approve this. We are going to let Bridget go, or Bridget has decided to quit. She did not like her negative review on not coming in on time. So once HR has approved the moving forward of the termination, a few things are happening in the background. Multiple notifications are going out to all of the different team members that would need to be notified. So IT is getting notified to deactivate her email. HR is getting notified to make sure that they talk with her about her COBRA benefits, the last paycheck, all of that. And then anybody else, her departmental supervisor would get a notification reminding them to make sure that they're going through any additional logins that Bridget had access to, converting over any projects that she had. But also we can see, as part of our termination process here, created was the COBRA notification. So again, any documentation can be automatically pushed into an employee's folder as part of your workflow process. So based on the termination submission, we can see here that our COBRA notification template has been generated for us automatically. So then we can just take a look at that and go ahead and make updates to it and then send it out to her via DocuSign for signature. So you've got all of that tracked. You can run audit logs on it, and that way you can maintain your own COBRA. So then we're going to go through back to our forms process, and we have all gone ahead and updated all of these items. You can have an email automatically go out to notify the team that Bridget's no longer with the team. Here's what you should do. Here's where you should direct anything that Bridget had handled before. I got a few tasks to complete here as part of this process, because again, multiple people are involved in a termination or an onboarding, and so we all need tasks so that we know what to do and when to do it. My computer sounds like it's going to take off, so it's a little bit extra slow. So again, here's the departmental task. This is for her manager, making sure all of those items have been completed. Something I wanted to point out, which I'll point out on this form as well, is on the right-hand side of our form, we would be able to see the action history. So anything that's happening in reference to Bridget's termination would get tracked here. So we can see that HR approved the termination. It went and got sent out as a task. It's been completed by whoever it was. The department employee, department head completed their task. Now this is on to IT. IT is going to complete their task. We're going to go ahead and submit that, and then it's maybe going to go back to HR for final approval. So workflow and forms are working together to build and push all of the updates and move the employee folder from one spot to the next. So we're just going to refresh this. So now we have a final review form. So as the HR manager, again, the final review for this employee to ensure that everything has been completed for all of the departments. We'll be able to see all of the action history and who did what and when. We can see which items they actually checked off and which ones they didn't. So we can say, why didn't IT disable their key card? Why is their Office 365 account still up? And then we can either go through and get those completed ourselves or follow up with them and make sure that they're all completed. So once the final review is done, if we jump back into our repository, I'm going to refresh my folder structure. It's going to take a minute for all of those processes to happen in the background, but essentially workflow is going to grab our termination notification that's gone through forms, all of those updates, and it's going to move Bridget's folder from our consulting folder and employee files to our past employee files area. But again, that just takes a minute. So we'll jump back over to the PowerPoint to kind of take a look. So a few other really neat things that I want to show is a couple of easy to use dashboards. So when we talk about outside database connections, they sometimes seem scary. Like I don't know how to set them up, but I know how to maintain and use a Laserfiche form. And so we have set up in a really easy way to create and manage your departments, your employees, your positions, your job descriptions, all of that with a Laserfiche form. So I'm just going to jump back in and take a look at that. See if Bridget refreshed now. No, she's still there. But I'm going to take a look at the HR management and dashboard. And so here we can select whether we want to update our departments and our positions, whether we want to add employees or edit employees. We're going to go ahead and update a department and a position. So I want to manage a department. So I can have it pull automatically the departments that we already have. I want to add a new department. So I'm going to create a new department for development. And I'm going to update the system. This is going to push the update into the database for me. And again, this splash page is customizable, but I can see now your HR data is being updated. I'm going to go back in there. If I go into Laserfiche, I will eventually get a new folder for development within my employee files section. F5. See, here's my new new department folder. So if you have to onboard a new team member, that's a new job role within your organization, you can do that really easily through this form. So now I want to make a position for that department. So I'm going to add a new position. This is going to be creating a new position for my development team, development director. Update the system. So I can continue to come in here and make updates to then their job description. So department and position. Development now is available to me. And it automatically populates development director because that's the only development role we have entered in. So I can go ahead and generate a job description. So the purpose of our development director is to integrate all of the things. We want to go ahead and create position requirements, performance goals, and then update the system. And then if we had an applicant that we were hiring for development, it would pull all of the development job duties and push that into our review form, into an automatic generation of the job description. It could pull all of that information and push it into the fillable onboarding job offer. So you can make it really easy to manage your database and all of the information. So I wanted to show the tables. Again, I am not a database expert, but we're just using SQL tables. And so I've navigated in here already. And I had pulled up the department names. And if I actually refresh this, since I've added a new one, so I'm going to edit the top 200 rows, it should refresh and populate the development department and reflect that now in my SQL table. But this is where you would manage the departments and the positions on the back end. But instead of having to come in here into your SQL database area and build the tables, which is very confusing, at least to me, I'm not an IT expert. Instead of coming in here, you can just use it through the Laserfiche form. Another couple cool tools I wanted to show quick is as an HR manager, you are responsible for ensuring that all of your employees have the appropriate documentation within their folder at all times. And so as long as you're leveraging Laserfiche metadata to capture the document types that you are required to keep, you could, again, create a table which easily shows you which employees have which documents and who still needs what within your organization, so that you know, okay, this employee still needs address information, the new hire setup form, onboarding, and the W-9, so I can track what's happening with them at any time. And then if I needed to provide an auditor access to who has what, I could simply do that here as well. And I wanted to show. We also have this form that we use internally for departmental management. Which allows us to take a look at all of the employees, their tenure here with Cities Digital, the average length the employee or the team members are within that department. So we'll just take a look at our consulting team. So I can go ahead and take a look at the employees. And this, again, is just in Laserfiche forms, pulling information back from a database, and we just use SQL. We can take a look at any of the key position documents. So if I wanted to take a look and, so here's our consulting team. We've got 11 team members. The average tenure is 4 years within that department. I can take a look at the job description for our particular job roles, any interview questions, quarterly assessments, promotion checklists, all of that. I could just simply click here and then it would pull up a copy of that document for me to reference. And then if I had any tasks or organization in that way, we could take a look at it from there. So again, using forms to easily configure dashboards to interact and view information within your organization. So if I jump back to my slides, so you may be wondering what you need to get started. So if you're not sure, you can just simply contact us. There's our phone number, extension 2 will get you to the sales or account management team. But it would be first taking a look at any licensing or hardware needs that you have, working on a plan for what processes you'd like to see in your system, and then training and configuring and getting you set up to use it. So that is all I had today for the HR automation, fast tracking it. And next month I will be doing a process webinar again on contract management within Laserfiche. So leveraging the processes within forms and workflow, interacting with different types of users that you can leverage on your system, and then as well as integrating with digital signature capabilities. So join us next month, I think it's April 25th, on that contract management piece. And then I'm just going to put that up. And if you've got any questions, again, please feel free to put it in the chat. And I am going to go through those now. So I've got a question here. Are the cover letter send options if an organization does not have DocuSign? What we are budget? So you do not have to incorporate DocuSign as your means of sending out a cover letter. You could just simply send an email to that applicant so that they can then download it and print it from there. Or they could use maybe some other online signature tool that may be free if you don't require a specific digital signature and you'll accept an electronic signature instead. Or you could just have them say, yes, I approve in an email. So you don't have to incorporate DocuSign as part of your signature method. It's just one option. So regarding the training plan, is the database your own company database, or is it part of the Laserfiche onboarding process? So the database is actually just a SQL table that we use within the city's digital organization. So it is specific to the city's digital team. So we could help you build out your database specific to your team and your needs. So it's just a SQL table. If you've got Laserfiche installed on a server, you should, a SQL server, you should have access to SQL tables, and that's something that our team can help you set up and configure. Do we have customizable pre-built solutions and templates that are ready to go for use? So essentially, if you like any of the processes that you saw here today, or any of the template informations, though I didn't focus on those specifically, we would definitely be able to provide those to you should you be a city's digital client. And then we can help you get them into your system and incorporate, again, your employee base and all of those details so that you can just use it going forward. Are any of the solution processes we demonstrated affected by whether you're using Laserfiche Server or Laserfiche Cloud? So that's a great question. All of the forms processes and for the most part, the workflow processes that I ran would be eligible to deploy on either Laserfiche Cloud or an on-prem system. The only thing that I can think of offhand right now is that within Laserfiche Cloud, you cannot populate a fillable PDF document. But if you're okay with populating a fillable Word document instead, you can incorporate incorporate the same process. So it should be able to work on either cloud or on-prem. We may have to take a special dive in depending on which process you want, but as far as I can think, there are no red flags other than that PDF limitation. Are all the forms and all the data on the forms visible to all participants in the process? They don't have to be. So for demo purposes, I am just logged in as an administrator or the forms administrative user so that I can see access to everything. But if you don't want to have specific users or maybe a departmental supervisor, if you don't want them to be able to see certain items, you can limit what they see from form approval to form approval or workflow approval to workflow approval. So you have the ability to limit what people can and cannot see as part of the submission process. Is the HR dashboard a separate product? The HR dashboard is not a separate product. It's just part of Laserfiche. It's a custom form that our team built just using Laserfiche functionality. So there is probably a little bit of custom coding in the background, but if you have Forms Professional, you would be able to achieve the same thing without needing to purchase additional licensing. It may just require some special configuration hours or professional services in that way. So it looks like that is all of the questions that I have for right now. If anybody can think of anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We are here to help. Any questions, concerns you've got, just send it to sales@CDI support or sales@citiesdigital.com and we'll get it addressed to the appropriate person. And again, don't forget to join us next month for our contract management process. And again, I appreciate everybody's time today. And one other thing is if you've got some feedback and you want to see some other specific process, please, after the webinar concludes, make sure you fill out that short survey and let us know your feedback. And we do listen to that and we take it seriously and we incorporate that into our next webinars and processes. But again, I appreciate your time today and let us know if you have questions. Thank you.